you battle the most? Your boss, your coworkers, that person who gets on your last nerve? Or could it be all of the above? What if I told you your biggest battle is with you? How you treat yourself, how you talk to yourself, how you show up to the world. It's usually you against you. Today, we'll talk about self-sabotage. Hi, I'm Constance Howard, executive coach on a mission to help women gain unstoppable confidence. Before we get to today's episode, please hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when any new videos are posted. It wasn't too long ago that whenever I was faced with coming up with a big report or I had a big project that needed to be done, the first thing I would do would be clean my house. Now, I know that makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. And I knew it. But something in me said I had to clean my house, and nothing that was said to me or was done could convince me otherwise. I'd clean my house from top to bottom. Why? I was procrastinating. I was procrastinating because I was afraid. I was afraid to actually sit down and do what I actually had to do because in my mind, I kept thinking, this is too much for me. I was afraid of failing. I was afraid of not living up to expectations, especially the expectations that I had for myself. So I'd clean my house from top to bottom. I was procrastinating. As it turns out, procrastination is one of the common form of self-sabotage. Now, I clean my house. I'm sure if you are a procrastinator, you may do some other things. You may scroll through social media for hours on end instead of tackling the job that you need to get done. Procrastination is something that we all do from time to time. But the procrastination that I'm talking about is the kind that jeopardizes the outcome of a project. It jeopardizes your ability to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. Oftentimes, entrepreneurs are very good at procrastinating because you know, put off we put off what we are afraid of. And so we think, oh, I need to have another certificate or I need more education before I can really think about launching my own business. I have a friend who is very talented and very smart and very educated, but she thinks she needs another degree before she launches her business. Now, would it be bad for her to have another degree? Absolutely not. But she's just procrastinating. And I think it's out of fear of the unknown, fear of doing something outside her comfort zone, fear of failure as well. And there could be a little bit of the fear of success. What if I succeed? Will I be able to maintain it? Will I be able to keep it going? We all self-sabotage in some way from time to time, and each way is individual for us. So let's say that you may sabotage yourself by consistently showing up late for work. And so you jeopardize your status at work. You jeopardize your ability maybe to get everything that you need done. Maybe you sabotage in your finances. You know that you're on a strict budget, but you can't resist that tube of lipstick or those new shoes or anything like that. Whatever you do that sabotages your ability to save money. Maybe you're a perfectionist. A lot of people wear that title as a badge of honor, but being a perfectionist is just another form of sabotaging yourself. Why? Because nothing is ever perfect. And so you tweak and you change and you tweak and you change, and you think that you're making it the absolute best, but really what you're doing is you're putting off submitting it or putting off actually launching it. Another way people sabotage is they say, I'm waiting for the right time to launch my business or to strike out on my own or to whatever it is, knowing that there really is no right time. And 9 times out of 10, when clients tell me that, it's just that they're afraid to start something. They're afraid to take that big leap of faith. Tony Robbins, and I'm sure you've heard of him. He's a self-help coach. He's an author. He's an amazing business person. He says the road to someday leads to a town called nowhere. What does that mean? It means the more you put off doing whatever it is, changing yourself, going for your big dream, living in your purpose, the more you put off doing that, you just delay it, and you end up never really going for whatever it is you want to achieve. Maybe you're consistently unprepared for whatever assignment. The whole idea of self-sabotaging is that you say one thing, you say you want to achieve your goals, but you do something totally different. Self-sabotaging. It could be conscious, it could be unconsciously that you do these things. You see, I knew after a while, I had done it so many times. It was such a consistent behavior. I knew when I started a massive cleaning project of my house, I knew that I was procrastinating. But I couldn't force myself to sit down to the desk and do it. I convinced myself once the house was totally clean and that was off my plate, off my to-do list, I could concentrate. But really, I was just paralyzed by that fear of expectations and that fear of failure. Sometimes we're paralyzed by the fear of what if, the what ifs. What if I fail? What if I can't support myself? What if people talk about me? What if I take a wrong, what if I make a mistake? And so that gets in our minds. And so we're paralyzed and we won't take a move. We don't tell ourselves that we're paralyzed by the what ifs. What we tell ourselves is that we're checking all the boxes and we're crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's to make sure that everything lines up. But the truth of the matter is, you have to embrace to some extent uncertainty, because you're never going to be able to dot every I and cross every T, and you're not going to be able to protect yourself from everything that could possibly go wrong. The fact of the matter is life be lifing, right? And so you can't have everything perfect. There can't be a perfect time for everything. Sometimes you do have to step out there. If your dream and your passion is so big, you have to step out there and just start it. I know that when I left TV news, that was a big thing for me. I mean, I held on to this dying career as long as I possibly could. Why? Because I was afraid. And I kept convincing myself that I needed, more education. I needed more money in the bank, and I needed more this and more that, and what if, and you know, how come, what am I going to do? I was paralyzed with all of that for a while. And then it came to the point where I had to decide whether I was going to go for my dream, fulfill my purpose, live with my passion, or I wasn't going to. And at that point, I was not willing to give up. And so all of the procrastination, all of the what ifs, all of them seem really small in comparison to not living a full life. So why do we self-sabotage? Well, as I've already discussed, a lot of it has to do with the fear of failure, the fear of success. What if I succeed and I can't sustain it? So we put up roadblocks. We put up the kind of barriers that on the outside appear as though they're there through no fault of our own. And so what else can I do? But 9 times out of 10, those are barriers that we put up that block us from our goals. Perhaps it's we see ourselves a certain way. And when how we see ourselves doesn't align with where we're trying to go, our behavior supports not going, right? So if you think of yourself not as the level that you hope for, if that's the identity, well, then your behavior is going to match that. And you're not going to go for your dreams and try to fulfill your goals. So it starts up here. How do you see yourself? Is that in line with where you want to go? As I said, it got to the point with me that I just didn't want to sacrifice my dreams anymore. You see, self-sabotaging causes a lot of stress and anxiety. It creates this heaviness. At least for me, it was this heaviness that I felt that there was something bigger and better waiting for me, but I was just out of reach of it. And I felt like I was in a fog, and that may be how you feel sometimes. You're just frustrated, and it causes a lot of stress. It erodes your confidence and your self-esteem because every time you fail at something that you really, really want to achieve, you prove to yourself that you can't, or you shouldn't, or that's not for me. That's just not in the cards for me. And that kind of thinking behavior can also affect your relationships. Self-sabotaging is really such a form of, you know, it's an assault, I think, against yourself because you are hurting yourself. A lot of times you think, oh, my boss is out to get me and he's standing in my way, and my coworkers are out to get me and they don't help me. And, this is in my way and all that kind of stuff like that. But really, it comes down to you against you. You against how you think of yourself, you against how you feel, you against how you talk about yourself, you against how you take care of yourself. So the very first step in breaking this very damaging cycle is for you to identify your self-sabotaging behavioral patterns. What do you do? When I sat down and thought about it, it was the cleaning of the house. It was the procrastination. It was procrastination. And for you, it may be the same thing, but again, it may not be cleaning your house. It may be going through social media. It may be, a whole host of things that only you know, right? You have to sit down and identify what were the last couple of big things that you were faced with doing, and how did you react? And what triggered that behavior? What triggered that behavior? And it's the things what you're going to find is that you consistently do it. Again, all of us procrastinate from time to time. That's no big deal. I'm talking about when your procrastination almost or does jeopardize the outcome that you want. So what behaviors are triggered when you're faced with whether or not you're going to achieve a big goal or you're faced with a big assignment? What are your behavioral patterns? Once you identify that, then you can start to dismantle what's going on, how you feel, what triggered that behavior. And you can also figure out what are the thoughts you were having or have during this whole process. Ask yourself, what are you saying to yourself? And then I want you to challenge that negative self-talk. Challenge that negative self-talk. Reframe the thoughts you're having and the beliefs that you have about yourself. Reflect on your past victories and successes. What went right and how did you feel at that point? I know that I had to replace that feeling of, ooh, I can't, and this is not going to work out. I had to replace those feelings and thoughts. I thought back on the times I did succeed and had a great victory. And instead of what if it doesn't work out, I changed that to why not? Why not go for it? Why not sit down and complete the project? It just might work. It worked the last time. And the more I thought about that, the more confidence I had in myself that I could do it without sabotaging myself. Right? I realized that I was wasting precious time and precious emotion, and I was causing too much stress and anxiety on myself. I want you to replace those critical thoughts with powerful thoughts, empowering thoughts, positive thoughts that overflood the negative. And I also want you to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for failure. A lot of times, what we do when we have a number of things that we want to accomplish, we think we have to do them all at the same time. And so we have this huge to-do list or this huge goal list. And there's just no way we're going to be able to accomplish, 5, 6 major things in our lives. And so we set ourselves up to fail because we look at that list and we think, oh my God, this is just too much. And our brains click out. Our brains say, wow, that's danger, Will Robinson. Turn back. It's too much. So instead of setting yourself up for failure, set your goals up so that you know you're going to be able to accomplish them. Have one or two. And I would suggest have one major goal that you are working on. Take one step at a time. Identify that one goal and then develop your action plan. Create consistent baby steps. You don't have to take big chunks of it. Take small chunks, take small baby steps, but be consistent. So, for example, instead of, I'm going to do the entire report in one setting, you might take one aspect of the report and work on that and complete that. And once you complete that, take the second part. Set yourself up for a victory by knowing the behaviors that, are easily triggered, and then come up with coping mechanisms. One of the things that I do now is when I'm faced with a big project, I take a deep breath. I do a lot of breath work. I take a deep breath to kind of center myself. And then I write down what are the things that need to be done so that I can tackle them in order, one at a time. And I don't tackle the second one or the third one until the previous one is totally finished. And that way my brain doesn't think, oh, okay, this is overwhelming and it's too much for me. And I just keep going. Baby steps. You'll be surprised at how at the end of the week, you'll be surprised at how much progress you've made. Celebrate your victories. You know, when I when I have a project or something and it's huge and I break it down into small chunks, I celebrate each time I accomplish a chunk. I celebrate, whether it's, in a major way or just in a way of just saying, good job, Constance. You did a good job. Those words are now part of my loop. Good job. You did a good job. Keep going. Success motivates success. So the little things that you succeed at will build and pile up, and it will motivate you to keep going. Breaking habits, especially self-sabotaging habits, take time and patience and persistence. It doesn't happen overnight. You have to first recognize what it is you're doing. And then you have to fight the thought pattern that triggers those behaviors. And you have to really talk to yourself and be compassionate with yourself and keep telling yourself, you can do this. Good job. Keep going. Each step gets you closer to your goal. Each step brings you closer to the life that you want and deserve. So tell me, I'd love to know. Put it in the comments below. What are some of your self-sabotaging behaviors? And tell me the next steps you're going to take to challenge those behaviors. I would love to hear from you. If you have questions, leave them below. I'll make sure I follow up. And if you want to schedule a one-on-one conversation with me, head over to my website, constancehowardllc.com, and you can book a one-on-one appointment with me there. Or you can leave it in the chat, and I'll make sure that I follow up with you. Thank you so much for watching. Again, can I remind you? Hit the subscribe button and click the bell so you'll be notified when any new videos are posted. Thanks again. I appreciate your support. I'll see you next week.